This was never just a life of hardship. It was a system designed so completely, so relentlessly, that even your thoughts could become a liability. Every sound, every glance, every word carried weight, and one wrong moment could erase you entirely. To understand what it meant to live here, you have to step inside a reality where survival wasn't about strength or intelligence, but about silence, obedience, and an unshakable awareness that everything around you could turn against you without warning. You wake before sunrise, not by choice, but because the walls around you refuse to let you sleep. A dry, persistent cough seeps through the thin plywood partition, separating your family from the next. It is impossible to ignore. You hear his wife murmuring, urging him to quiet down, though it makes no difference. From the shared kitchen, metal clangs against metal as someone begins preparing food. This is how mornings begin in a communal apartment, where 7 families occupy what was once meant for one. There is a single kitchen, a single toilet, a single sink, and every morning begins with a cue, forming long before the sun rises. Your entire world is confined to 12 square meters. Inside that space live you, your wife, and your 2 children. There is one bed. The children sleep on a thin mattress laid directly on the floor. When winter arrives, the cold seeps into the walls and never leaves, turning the room into a frozen box. In summer, the air becomes suffocating, thick, and unmoving. Privacy does not exist. Sound travels freely, smells linger, and the presence of others is constant. You learn not to complain, not because you are satisfied, but because complaining carries consequences you cannot afford. At 26, you already feel older than your years. Your work as a lathe operator has hardened your hands and strained your back. Each day blends into the next, defined by repetition and exhaustion. Your monthly salary is 120 rubles, an amount so small it barely sustains your family. Bread is distributed through ration cards. Butter is nearly impossible to obtain. Meat is a distant memory. You spend hours standing in lines for basic necessities, sometimes waiting 1 hour, sometimes 3, only to reach the front and discover there is nothing left. When that happens, you turn away silently and return home empty-handed, where your children look at you with quiet expectation, and you have no explanation to offer. This is daily life in the Soviet Union during the 1930s under Stalin. Officially, you are the foundation of the state, the worker who powers the nation forward. Newspapers praise you, posters glorify your image, presenting you as strong, proud, and essential. But the reality is far different. You are replaceable. The distance between propaganda and truth is vast, and acknowledging that gap, even in the smallest way, can destroy you. Understanding this is the first rule of survival. Before anything else, you must accept the system exactly as it is. It does not tolerate criticism, not in public, not in private, not even in whispers. Conversations inside your own home are not safe. The walls are thin, and even if they were not, you cannot be certain who might be listening. This society operates on denunciation. Anyone around you, a neighbor, a colleague, even a casual acquaintance, can report you to the authorities. The process requires no proof. A single accusation is enough. A simple statement claiming you spoke against Stalin can seal your fate. People use this system for their own advantage. A neighbor who wants your room writes a denunciation. A coworker who wants your job does the same. Personal grudges become deadly tools. The state encourages this behavior, rewarding those who participate. Children are taught in schools that reporting enemies is an act of loyalty and courage, even if that enemy is their own parent. Trust disappears completely. When the authorities come, they arrive at night. A black vehicle pulls into the courtyard under dim light. Footsteps echo in the stairwell. A knock follows, then a search, and then someone is taken away. They do not return. Their absence is permanent, and their existence is quietly erased. Everyone knows this, and no one speaks about it. Even the smallest actions can lead to severe punishment. In 1932, a law is introduced that criminalizes taking even a handful of grain from collective farm fields. The penalty is extreme execution or 10 years in a labor camp. It becomes known as the Law of Three Stalks. At the same time, you are forbidden from listening to foreign broadcasts or speaking favorably about other nations. Silence itself becomes suspicious. You are expected to show enthusiasm, to applaud, to agree with every decision presented to you. The most dangerous aspect of all is unpredictability. Actions that are acceptable one day can become crimes the next. Individuals once celebrated as heroes can suddenly be labeled enemies. If you fail to condemn them quickly enough, you risk being associated with them. Survival depends on constant adjustment, constant awareness. Your brother lives in a rural region along the Volga. He is a peasant, not wealthy by any standard. He owns a cow, a horse, and a modest home. Yet in 1930, he is classified as a kulak. Official definitions describe kulaks as exploiters. But in reality, the label is applied to anyone slightly better off than others. Owning more livestock or hiring occasional help becomes enough to mark someone as an enemy. Your brother avoids execution or exile, but his property is confiscated and he is forced into a collective farm. There, he works without wages, earning only labor credits recorded in a ledger. At the end of the year, he is supposed to receive a share of the harvest, but the state takes its portion first, leaving almost nothing behind. By 1932, communication from him stops entirely. Weeks pass with no word. Eventually, news arrives from someone traveling through the region. The situation is worse than hunger. It is starvation on a massive scale. All grain has been seized. People resort to eating grass, tree bark, anything they can find. Children suffer from swollen bellies. Bodies lie unattended because there is no one left to bury them. This famine, later known as the Holodomor, claims millions of lives across Ukraine, the Volga region, and Kazakhstan. The grain itself did not disappear. It was collected and exported to finance industrial development. Factories rise, machines are purchased, and production increases, all funded by resources taken from people like your brother. Standing at your machine, you begin to understand the connection. The equipment you operate may have been paid for with the food that was taken from your family. But this realization is something you keep entirely to yourself. Speaking it aloud would be unthinkable. Silence remains your only protection. As the system tightens its grip and prepares for something even more devastating, by the time you reach your early 30s, you begin to believe that you understand the boundaries of survival. You have endured shortages, fear, and silence. You have learned when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. But that illusion collapses completely in 1937, when everything intensifies with a force that no one is prepared for. What came before now reveals itself as only the beginning. The arrests do not happen randomly anymore. They come in waves, systematic and relentless, sweeping through entire neighborhoods, workplaces, and communities. Every night, between the hours of 1 and 4 in the morning, the same pattern repeats itself. A vehicle arrives, its presence unmistakable, even before you see it. The sound of footsteps climbing the stairs follows, slow and deliberate. A knock, firm and final, breaks the silence. Doors open, rooms are searched, and someone is taken away. There is no explanation given, no resistance allowed. By morning, it is as if that person never existed. You begin to notice the disappearances everywhere. The man who stood next to you in line for bread is gone. The woman who handled accounts at the factory vanishes, without a trace. Your neighbor, who you greeted just days ago, no longer answers his door. People stop asking questions entirely, because even curiosity can be interpreted as suspicion. To wonder aloud where someone has gone is to risk being connected to them, and connection is enough to destroy you. At work, meetings become increasingly frequent. One day, you are summoned along with everyone else. An announcement is made. Your former shop foreman, a man you worked under for years, is declared an enemy of the people. He is accused of espionage, sabotage, betrayal. The accusations sound absurd to you. You knew him. He was nothing more than a diligent engineer who kept the machines running. But the facts no longer matter. You are instructed to vote in favor of condemning him. There is no hesitation in the room, not because people believe the accusations, but because they understand the consequences of doubt. Hands rise quickly, almost instinctively. Yours follows. It feels automatic, disconnected from your own will. In that moment, you realize that survival requires not just silence, but participation. You are not only expected to avoid dissent, you are expected to actively support it. The realization stays with you long after the meeting ends. Over the next 2 years, the scale of repression becomes staggering. Approximately 1.5 million people are arrested. Nearly 700,000 are executed. The reasons are often trivial or entirely fabricated. A careless joke, an association with the wrong individual, even a name mentioned under interrogation can lead to arrest. Confessions are extracted through exhaustion, intimidation, and relentless pressure. People sign documents simply to make the suffering stop, knowing full well that the consequences will be fatal. At the center of this system is Article 58 of the Criminal Code. It is broad, vague, and deliberately designed to encompass nearly anything. A joke about Stalin falls under it. Failing to report someone who told such a joke also falls under it. Having relatives abroad, possessing a foreign surname, or expressing doubt can all be interpreted as counter-revolutionary activity. The definition expands constantly, leaving no clear boundaries, creating an atmosphere of pervasive fear and uncertainty. Trials, as they once existed, are replaced by something far more efficient and terrifying. Decisions are made by groups of 3 officials, known as troikas. These men sit at a table, reviewing cases. They review cases without the presence of the accused. There is no defense, no legal representation, no opportunity to respond. Sentences are determined quickly, often in batches. Execution or imprisonment in a labor camp, sometimes for 10 years, sometimes for 25 years. Appeals are impossible. In many cases, the accused are never even informed of the decision. The impact extends beyond the individual. There is a category created specifically for families, labeled as members of a traitor to the motherland. If a man is arrested, his wife automatically becomes suspect. She can be sent to a camp simply for her association with him. Children are taken away and placed in orphanages. Their identities altered. They grow up without knowledge of their parents, their past erased as completely as the individuals themselves. Each night, as you lie in your bed, sleep becomes secondary to listening. Every sound matters. The faint rumble of a vehicle entering the courtyard, the echo of footsteps in the stairwell, the pause outside a door. When the steps pass by your room, relief washes over you, immediate and overwhelming. You hate yourself for feeling it, knowing that someone else has just been taken in your place. But relief means survival, at least for another night in this oppressive reality. Gradually, the intensity begins to diminish, not because the system has softened, but because there are fewer people left to take. Prisons are overcrowded. Labor camps continue to expand, stretching across vast, remote regions. The machinery of repression slows only because it has consumed so much already. You remain at your factory, continuing your work, maintaining the same careful balance that has kept you alive. Then, in 1940, the pressure shifts in a different direction. A new decree targets discipline within the workforce. Being late to work is no longer a minor offense. It becomes a criminal act, punishable by up to 6 months of corrective labor. Missing an entire day carries even harsher consequences. Quitting your job is forbidden entirely. You are bound to your workplace, unable to leave, much like peasants tied to collective farms. Working conditions intensify. The workday extends to 12 hours. Days off are reduced or eliminated. Production targets continue to rise, and failure to meet them is interpreted as sabotage. Once again, the same legal framework applies. Article 58 looms over every aspect of your life, transforming ordinary shortcomings into potential crimes, creating a constant state of anxiety. At home, conditions remain unchanged, or in some ways, become even more restrictive. The communal apartment grows more crowded as additional families are moved in. This process is known as densification. It reduces the space allocated to each person. Any extra room is considered unnecessary luxury and reassigned accordingly. You cannot object. You cannot secure your space. The door remains open not just physically, but in every sense. More importantly, you live with the constant understanding that someone among you is reporting to the authorities. It could be anyone. The quiet elderly woman who rarely speaks. The young couple who seem polite and reserved. There is no way to know. Every word you say is measured, every expression controlled. Conversations become cautious, limited to what is absolutely necessary, reflecting the deep-seated fear. Outwardly, you maintain the appearance expected of you. You acknowledge the portrait of Stalin on the wall with respect. You read the official newspaper where others can see. Even small gestures matter. Using a newspaper with the leader's image for anything inappropriate can lead to severe punishment. Compliance must be visible, consistent, and unquestionable. By the time the next major turning point arrives, you are no longer the same person you once were. Years of fear, adaptation, and silent endurance have reshaped your instincts completely. And as the world shifts again, this time toward war, survival becomes even more uncertain. Dangers ahead are matched only by those behind you, and choices narrow even further. On June 22, 1941, everything changes again. At 37, you receive your draft notice. There is no discussion, no hesitation. You are no longer a factory worker, no longer a father. You become a soldier, a number assigned to a uniform, part of a vast machine that demands everything and explains nothing. Your head is shaved, civilian clothes taken away, and a rifle is placed in your hands. Weapons are so scarce that 3 men are expected to share one, arming themselves from the fallen. When you reach the front, the reality is stark and immediate. The danger does not come from one direction, but two. In front of you is the advancing German army, relentless and heavily armed. Behind you stands a different threat, your own side, positioned to ensure that retreat is impossible. Special units are ordered to shoot anyone who attempts to fall back. You are caught between these forces. Under Soviet law, being captured alive brands you a traitor. Instead, you are sent to filtration camps, where suspicion replaces gratitude. Many who pass through those camps are sent onward to labor camps, punished for the simple fact that they survived. While you fight, your family continues their own struggle, far from the battlefield. 16-hour shifts become routine. The quotas remain unchanged, unforgiving, and constant. Food is distributed through ration cards, each one vital. Losing a card does not mean inconvenience. It means starvation. Without it, there is no legal way to obtain food. The black market exists, but its prices are impossibly high, turning basic goods into unattainable luxuries. Medical care offers little relief. Your wife sacrifices her own portions to keep the children alive, weakening herself in the process. Exhaustion follows her to the factory floor, but she cannot stop. Absence is treated as a crime. Collapse is not an option. Survival depends on endurance, no matter the cost. Temperatures drop to 30 degrees below zero near Moscow. The cold seeps into your body, numbing your hands, your feet, your thoughts. You do not think about ideology or leadership. You think about your family, wondering if they are still alive. A piece of shrapnel grazes your leg, leaving you injured but not crippled. You are treated quickly and sent back. When you step into your apartment, the changes are immediate and painful. He died during the winter of 1943, taken by pneumonia that could not be treated. The loss is final. Another quiet absence added to a growing list. You tell yourself that at least the war is over. A drought spreads across the land, leading to yet another famine. Once again, food exists, but it is not available to those who need it most. Grain is collected and sent abroad, used to strengthen influence in Eastern Europe. The priorities of the state remain unchanged. Its own people are expected to endure. Daily life returns to long lines and empty shelves. When your turn comes, you receive a single loaf. You carry it home carefully, aware of its value. Your wife divides it into thin slices, stretching it across the day. The routine repeats itself endlessly. Hunger becomes a constant presence once again. At the same time, the atmosphere of fear begins to intensify. Soldiers who have seen life beyond Soviet borders are viewed as potential threats. That knowledge alone becomes dangerous. Campaigns are launched to suppress perceived foreign influence, framed as efforts to protect the state. Accusations and arrests return with renewed force. At your factory, meetings resume, echoing the patterns of the past. People are singled out, labeled as enemies, and condemned publicly. One day, a man you have worked with for 15 years is accused of sabotage. He is Jewish, and the political climate has shifted against him. During the meeting, you remain silent. But even silence is noticed. Later, you are called into the director's office and asked why you did not participate. But the encounter lingers. Across the country, similar patterns unfold. The logic of the system remains consistent. If you have ever been marked, you remain marked forever. By the time you reach 48, you have survived famine, purges, war, and another famine. The possibility that the pattern might return for you. Fear has become permanent, woven into your thoughts. Trust no longer exists in your life. Relationships become liabilities. You distance yourself from others, not out of choice, but out of necessity. Even within your own family, you limit what you share. Protecting your wife means ensuring she knows as little as possible. You learn to maintain two separate realities. Outwardly, you are loyal, enthusiastic, supportive. Inwardly, you carry a completely different understanding, one that remains unspoken. Some people cry openly, others remain silent. You feel something rise within you, something difficult to define. Relief, perhaps, mixed with uncertainty and a lingering fear of what might come next. After decades of tension, loss, and control, the moment feels unreal.